Welcome Africa, welcome once again to another Yali Creators video. My name is Calvin Mutize.
And my name is Kudam Zembe.
We're shooting out straight out from Harare, Zimbabwe. And we're doing this storytelling series.
Yes.
How to change the African narrative from the African perspective. Because I think the greatest thing that we're seeing is, like one of the videos that we did earlier on, we're talking about that maybe the best 10 movies to be created in the last 10 years in Africa.
Yeah.
Hotel Rwanda, Tsotsi,
Blood Diamond,
Machine Gun Preacher,
yes.
You know, all the whole jazz. They all pretty much portray violence, genocide, poverty. And a few heroic instances.
Yes.
A few heroes.
Yes.
But is that the story about Africa?
But that's, you know, and that's an amazing point that you've brought up, that, you know, it's really all about the perspective from which a story is told.
Yeah.
You know, and of course, every storyteller has some sort of agenda, you know, and the motive. Let's call it motive. That's a better word. They've got a motive, and they've got a certain image that they're trying to portray, or a certain aspect or angle that they're trying to drive. And so it's important that when a story is told, you also get a balanced view
of
yes.
Of that, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the greatest thing that we were talking about earlier on is that before the message, the story is powerful, but the carriers of the story are equally as powerful. We're talking about authenticity earlier on, you know, before we started this.
Yeah.
So, you know, when the messenger, the carrier of the message, whether you're behind a computer or whether you don't even appear in public,
yeah.
but the person who carries the story is as equally important as the outcome of the story.
True.
And the quality of the story.
True.
So sometimes, you know, there are some people who walk up to us and say, guys, we want to collaborate with this project. When we look at your work and we're like, it's so shady, man. It literally portrays who you are, and it literally portrays the quality that you have, or the perception you have of your work.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think how the world views Africa is that they look at our work and be like, are you serious?
Seriously? Yes.
You know?
And it's an important point that you bring up there, Calvin, that there's got to be a link between the story you're telling and you as the storyteller,
individual.
You know, as the individual, because the moment there's a disparity there, or there's inconsistency, it means that we begin to question your motive. We begin to question where you're coming from, to say exactly. Do you actually, you know, does this individual actually have the credibility to be speaking about the things they're speaking about? Or, you know, if you happen to be, you know, you come out and you've got this amazing project you're doing, or this amazing drive you have, an amazing movement you're running, or whatever, we want to come back and ask ourselves, okay, are you doing this because you have a genuine heart?
Or you're just doing it for the sake of craft?
Yes.
Because whilst just talking about that, there's a musician I love this musician, and I've been following for a couple of years. And then a couple of months ago, I learned that he was beating his wife. And my perspective of his music changed drastically.
Yeah.
My perspective of his music changed because his personal life does not align with the quality of music he produces. Fantastic artist, fantastic artist. But his personal life...
So that, exactly, you know, and you hit it spot on there, that part of the problem we have is, naturally as human beings, we are drawn to authenticity. We're drawn to authentic things, which is part of the reason why we're so drawn to kids, little kids, because you know that a little kid is just being themselves. They're not trying to exactly. They're not trying to put up a facade unless the kid is like messed up somehow. But there's a genuineness that kids have, and so I think in line with that, when as a storyteller, one of the things you've got to be able to do is to tell your story from an authentic point of view. You know, and that doesn't mean that you know everything. That doesn't mean that you are the most amazing person at what you do, but it just means that you are genuine. Yes, so definitely authenticity.
So for me, it comes to integrity.
Yeah.
The integrity as a person has to match with the story. And sometimes I think, I know we love our stories, I know we love our narrative, I know we love our causes, but I feel like sometimes if you know that you don't have the quality to carry the story, just give it to someone.
Give it to someone else.
Please,
brilliant. That is brilliant. It's like, you know, I don't like talking about this, but when you look at African politics sometimes, you know,
and then you're gonna get a job, a creative job for a politician.
Yeah, exactly. You know, part of the problem is the fact that we have sometimes we have people in positions that don't have the skill, that don't have the capacity to handle those positions, but they're there because they're affiliated or whatever the case is. So and that actually ends up destroying that position or that particular role that they're playing because they're not the right man for the job.
They come out on stage, they say something fantastic on the earth, and then, but in your heart you're cringing like, no. No. So the moment the messenger of the story is questioned, the authenticity of the story, no matter how brilliant it is, just flies out of the window.
That's very true. And I think that brings us back to an important point, which is that of brand, right? That as you build a story, it's important for you to think about the brand. The
brand itself,
right?
Because the story is the brand.
The story is the brand.
Whether it's a cause, like one of the examples we were using today was Edmond Masendeke. He's a physically challenged. He's cerebral palsy. He's 32 now. He's got a master's in business and finance.
Eddie's brilliant.
African leader. He's got a project that is helping physically challenged people to live alone by putting assertive instruments in the house and equipment to help them live on their own. That even though you might not have a hand, you're physically challenged, maybe you're on a wheelchair, you can live on your own, you can cook on your own, you can iron, you can do all these things. So he's bringing all this assertive equipment to customize houses. So that's his cause, that's his story, that's his brand called Endless Possibility. Or you might not be that guy, you might be that guy who writes the book. Or you might be that guy who runs a business. At the end of the day, both of these things are brands.
True. Right? And you know, and I come more from a business point of view. I'm into energy. I run a company that does energy, alternative energy,
music and singing and
and all that other stuff. But one of the key things you learn when you are in business is the importance of creating a good brand. And there's several elements that have to come together if you're gonna create a good brand. If you look at all the top brands in the world, one of the things that if you think of Apple, if you think of Coca-Cola, one of the most amazing things about those brands is that they've not left it to chance, right? They've been very intentional about the story that they're creating and the impression that they want you to have of their brand.
Just a side note. Initially, do you know that Father Christmas was green? To those people who believe in Christmas or who believe in Father Christmas.
I believe in Father Christmas.
Yes. But Father Christmas was green. But Coca-Cola wanted to hijack Father Christmas, so they portrayed Father Christmas in red. And now everyone thinks Father Christmas was red. No,
that's actually brilliant.
Christmas was green.
That's
Coca-Cola changed it.
Talk about changing the narrative, huh?
Changing the narrative, man.
So the thing is this, that when you're creating a brand, number one, the importance of being intentional. So we look at all these top brands and we think, I don't know, through time they just kind of got there. No, but they were very specific about what they wanted. And
because it was all based on a vision that they had.
Yes, exactly. So which is another thing that as we create our brands, we've got to think about what is the actual vision behind it? What do I intend to achieve, right? And then that will begin to determine how I'm going to package it. To say, okay, so I want to create, I've come up with a great social project, a social enterprise, a social cause. Who's my audience? Okay? Who are the people that I need to alert to the fact that I am doing this?
Oh yeah, that's a very interesting. No, continue. I'm going to say something about it.
And when I've done that, I've now got to think about, I've identified my target audience. How do I reach them? What are the best platforms that I can utilize to reach them? So this is a very deliberate process, and I've got to think with the end in mind, right? This is what I want. This is the impact I want it to have. Then I start to work backwards to say, okay, so I need to do that. I need to do this. I need to use videos. I need to use Twitter. I need to use Facebook.
I need to use the newspaper.
The newspaper.
I was trying to say print is not going anywhere.
Yeah, print is actually not dead. It's here.
Print is we're still here.
Yeah, we're here. And so the whole process of creating a brand is a very intentional process. So yeah.
It really is important that as we are starting our brand, as we are building our brand, that we are intentional about it, but intention comes straight from vision. So if you are thinking of starting a course, or if you're planning a course, or you're in the process of creating or developing a course, please go back to the drawing board, start from vision. Because one of the things that we were, as part of the Mandela Fellowship, I went to a business in Arizona called the Bash's Supermarket. It's a family-run supermarket, and they've been living for like 87 years.
Wow.
I'm putting this challenge out. We put it last year again. Show me an African business that is over 50 years.
Yeah, don't go there.
Why? Is because it comes back to vision, it comes to intentionality. Some of the amazing stories we still have today are, the stories from our grandparents.
Yeah.
But those stories are very old.
Yeah.
So we need to someone has to capture those stories.
Yes.
But besides those stories from old, what about 100 years ago?
Yeah.
Because I must say, in Africa, at this junction, the stuff that we are taught in our schools, the history we're taught in our schools, is the revolution side.
Yes, that's it.
From the colonial period, most of history in Africa, school history, is focused on the revolution.
And just to cut through there, one of the things that you raised, one of the points that you raised there is the fact that Africa, are we going to have sustainable businesses? Are we going to have businesses that will last?
Sustainable brands like Coca-Cola for 100 years.
Yes, but I believe that, yes, we've had lots of issues that have happened in Africa, and some of them are very legit, right? But now I think it's the time for us to start thinking about how can we build sustainable businesses?
Sustainable
right?
brands.
Sustainable brands.
Stories that after I'm dead, 30, 50, 100 years later, my grandchildren can still read my story, your story.
And I believe we're at a point where we're starting to do that. There's so many great African businesses that are there. And sometimes you don't get to hear those stories. There's so many young people in Africa that are running projects, that have started companies, entrepreneurs, creatives from across the board that are doing things that I really believe that are gonna shake the world and rock the world. But those stories need to be told correctly.
Correctly.
Exactly.
That's the word.
Those stories need to be celebrated.
And they need to be documented, archived.
All of that.
And published and marketed.
Yes. So it brings me, and so that's the challenge that I want to present to everyone here today, to say, if you're a young person who is running a project or running a business, if you've got a company or whatever it is that you're doing, what is your brand? Your personal brand and the brand that you're building. How long do you want it to last? What sort of impact do you want it to have? Are we going to remember you 50 years from now? Or are you a
fly-by-the-night
shooting star? You know what I mean? So those are really important things for us to think about, so that we don't just start things and they just fall apart. Fizzle out. So we've got to think beforehand that this is, if I'm building, I'm a car person. I love cars.
Formula 1 is coming.
This time it's not Formula 1. It's actually, if you want to build a Rolls Royce of a company or a system, right? Tried and tested. You've got to think about that. What goes into making a Rolls Royce? Why is a Rolls Royce different from a Toyota Prius or Toyota Corolla? Great as those brands may be. What makes it different? It's all the thought that goes into it. It's all the detail. And it's the fact that they decided from the get-go that we want to build the best engine in the world. And they do.
Top-notch executives cars. So they knew their target market. They knew their price range. They knew their story, and they stuck to their story.
An interesting statistic is actually that that over 70% of all the Rolls-Royce cars that have been made are still on the road today. Over 70%.
Since 19 what?
Since 19 whenever. But that's because
intentionality. Vision come back.
So that's really it. When I think about building a brand, that think of examples of brands that you like, or maybe your brand is the kind of brand that you want it to just be a short-term thing you're running.
It is, I must say, disclaimer is that there are some short-term brands.
Yes.
You're running a project for 5-10 years.
Yeah.
A brand is going to last for 10 years. After the project is done,
it's done. Yeah. You close it.
Like in Africa, I'm going to use a humanitarian focus that when the cholera epidemic hits them, there are so many initiatives and projects that were created
specifically for that.
The genocide, the same when genocide happens in Rwanda, there were projects that were created specifically just to cover genocide. And when they were done, they closed.
That's it.
The brands had to die because every project has to come to an end. But if it's a business, then
that's a different case altogether. So the idea simply being this, that you've got to think about what it is you want to do. Stephen Covey, one of the management gurus from back in the day, he's late now. One of the things he said in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, was that
you should read that book, though.
Start with the end in mind. Right? So we need to do that. And I think that's part of, you brought up Rwanda as an example there, that if you look at the things that have happened in Rwanda and how today Rwanda is probably one of the...
It's called the Silicon Valley of Africa.
It's amazing, but it's because they've been intentional. It's not accidental. And it's a mistake we often make, that we think, well, they'll just know about me. It will happen, right? But it doesn't work like that. You've got to think beforehand to say, this is the impact I want to have. It's like if you're trying to impress a girl, right?
I know, bro. You just don't waste your chick, yeah?
You think about it beforehand to say, this is the kind of chick she is. You probably look her up, study her profile.
And you scout her for a couple of days.
You check.
And then the day you approach, you're looking sharp, you're looking...
So that you don't have reproach when you approach. So, but it's because you are intentional about it.
About getting her. So at the end of the day, if you think of approaching a girl you like to propose marriage, to propose love, you're intentional about all the events that lead up to.
Exactly.
Even what you call it? Proposing to.
Exactly. I mean that's a big deal.
You think about it. So the same thing. Let's think about our brands. Let's think about our stories, our narratives. Let's not just haphazardly wake up the next day. I've got a camera, so I'm just going to shoot a video and put it up. The quality has to be on point. That's what we're talking about. Collaboration. The quality has to be on point. The concept has to be on point. So that at the end of the day, when someone looks at it, I think there's a statement that you said earlier on, is that no one wants to be associated with bad things.
Yeah.
No one wants to be a part of bad things.
Yeah, everyone wants to be a part of a good story. That's a fact. And we all know it. We all know that the moment you hear that something amazing is happening, you want to jump onto the bandwagon.
You want to be a part of it.
You want to be a part of it.
That's the good thing.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's a natural human thing. So the question then becomes...
You don't apologize for it.
Exactly. Don't be apologetic. So the question then becomes, is what you are creating worth jumping onto?
For people who want to come onto it.
Exactly. And it's as simple as that. It's not complicated. So I would say, to sort of summarize it, is to say, number one, think of the end. Be very intentional about
where do you want to go,
about where you're wanting to go. The second thing is think of the process of how you're gonna go there, right? How am I gonna create this brand, right? And then also think of examples to say, okay, I'm building. I already spoke of Rolls Royce. I'm building a Rolls Royce. I'm building a Coca-Cola. I'm building a Rwanda, right? So these are things that you need to think about, so that as you're working, you've got some sort of a benchmark that you're using.
I think it's a very powerful thing that you're saying, Kuda, is that there are examples that have gone before.
Yeah.
Trying to chart our way, a new way, is basically wasting time.
Yeah, no need to reinvent the wheel. Yes.
Look at their mistakes, learn from them, and
make
them better. But we're not saying that copy that style and copy and paste it. No, see what they're doing, learn from it, and develop your own course and make your own story better.
Brilliant. So I really believe that as African creatives, as African young people, as we begin to develop these practices and as we become aware of them and also become very aggressive about the way we implement them and unapologetic about the stories we're telling, we will hear the gate ring.
The
gate as we begin to become intentional, we'll start to gain traction. We'll start to see things change.
And we grow, our experiences grow. And as we collaborate, things start to build up slowly. And folks, I think today we're gonna
wrap it up here.
We're gonna wrap it up here.
It's been good.
We're talking about branding.
Yeah.
We're talking about authenticity.
Yes.
The message, the story, the narrative is as powerful as the messenger, the carrier, the creator of the video, the creator of the story, the designer, the editor. Your integrity as a person is either going to compromise or enhance the quality of the product, the quality of the story, the quality of the narrative. And as Africans, let's not just create stuff. Let's think of the end.
Let's be thoughtful.
And let's be intentional. And let's grow the quality of our work.
True.
My name is Kelvin Mutize, Yali Creatives.
And I'm Kudam Zembe.
And we're signing out.
Peace.